I own a 2022 Defender Land Rover and looked around for a Molle plate for it and I couldn't find it. So I went ahead and designed this one. As you can see, there's a bunch of slots in there, holes, and therefore some either straps or you can use different types of mounting configurations. As you look at it, and it has several slots in it that can be used for straps or rotopacks, mounts, and as well as some other items. Now, if you look on the other side, this is the main side, which is the vertical side. And over here you have the top of the plate, which will bolt onto the rack mount. You'll see that there's a relief in it, and that relief there is for any racks that you might want to put in addition to this on your vehicle. So here's some of the hardware that's going to be used to mount the Molle plate onto the car. The first thing is we've got these nuts that are going to go into the slide rails. These are all 3/8 inch bolts. The studs are 3/8 inch fine on one side and coarse on the other. The bolts are 3/8 inch fine all the way through. I got a couple of shims. I'll show you what those are for. Some washers. So you'll see here suction cups. There are two of them. And they're just screwed on nuts that'll hold it on there. And then you'll see these nubs here. These nubs are used for breaking the suction. So it's recommended when you put these on the plate, you put these nibs someplace where you can reach it easily, because that'll facilitate you taking off the suction so you can remove the plate more easily. So we're going to start with these studs, and we're going to screw them in to the nut plate, and you can see we're going to screw them until they're almost flush. Do that one, and we'll do the same thing here to this one. Now we'll move over to the car and put them on the car. Now let's take a look at the roof rack where this will be mounted. This is on the driver's side. And by the way, this Molle plate can be mounted on either side. You see there's a relief here where the nut will go and slide one in the front and one towards the back. And you'll also notice that there's a pretty much of a stop here that limits how far back it'll go. So you want to, we'll show that when we're putting this on. We now put the nut plates on with the studs that we mounted before. Again, all the way to the back. Make sure that's all the way back there. And then this one will slide up here. And what you want to do is you want to get about 15 3/4 inch between the two. And what that'll do is that'll give you a little bit more, well, it'll give me the exact dimension between the two, so it'll be easier to put the plate on. So measure that to 15 3/4 inch. Now, you'll notice that these are a little bit loose in here because they're sitting on the bottom. There's a lot of movement. So what I do is I take those wedges that you saw in the kit before and slide it in, and you don't have to do it too tight, just to keep it in there. And the same thing on this side. What this does is just pushes the plate up against the rail and gives you a little firmer spacing to put the plate on. Now we'll be taking those off after we put the plate. And now you can just put the plate on. You can actually see the holes through through the slots. Now again, make sure that this is all the way back because it's going to matter. You won't be able to open the door if you don't have that all the way slid back. And that's it for that part. Now we have to do is go get the bolts and replace the studs with the bolts. Now you'll also notice that there's a cutout here. And what that cutout is for is if you buy the OEM roof rack, it'll mount someplace in here, so you're good to go. The other thing is once you put the nuts in or the bolts in and tighten them up, you can take these wedges out. In fact, you should take these wedges out. You no longer need them. That's just to stabilize you to put the bolts in. So here we are at the mold plate mounted on the side of the car. Bolts are not in yet. And you can see the one suction cup that we had put on here earlier. Now I'm going to do is I'm going to go get the other suction cup and we'll put it somewhere on here so that we have actually 2 points of support. Now because the car actually curves back a little bit and the plate doesn't, the plate is obviously flat, it doesn't follow the contour of the car. What you're going to need to do is you're going to need to take it and use one of these, use the backing nut and to help it stay away from the back. So you'll put one on there, one on there. This thing's already stuck on here. We're going to break that. Go there, put this on. And we put that one on, and they're both on there. Now what you need to do is just push down on it to seal it. And you can see that that's on there pretty tight. Now we'll go back up top and replace the studs so that we've got a fixed unit. Now what my recommendation is to use some blue Loctite just on these first few threads so that when you put them in, they stay in there. You can put a lock spring on there, spring washer, but that just raises the height above the plate. So, and I try to keep it as low to the plate as possible. So I'm going to get a washer and then remove these studs and replace them with the bolts. Okay, here we go. So do one thread at a time, just very gently. Try not to move it because you don't want the hole to misalign. Then the rear one. Now you may need to juggle this around because you might have some pressure on it from the alignment, but it should be easy enough to take out. Just again, just don't move it too much so that the holes stay aligned. Okay. Now you just get your wrench and tighten that up and you're going to be ready to go. So here's a whole shot of the mold plate in place. You've got the two suction cups in place. You can put them anywhere. I try to put them on the glass someplace. And then, excuse the dirty car, but there's a little view from the rear of what the thing looks like. And one other thing I wanted to point out, this is a prototype plate that I made. The next plate I'm going to make is going to be several inches longer so that this strip can be taken off This whole strip can be taken off, and behind it there are two screws, two nuts, blind nuts existing. This is where the ladder accessory gets bolted on. And so you could, if you want a more permanent mounting, you can use one of those two holes, drill a hole in the plate, and then get another swage nut, put it in here, and then drill a hole. And you can, with some spacers, you can mount this permanently. The other thing you want to make sure is that you're going to have clearance here. Again, this is why it's important to get that back one all the way back, that back stud. So you want to be able to open it and make sure it closes without any interference. And so that's it. And I hope you enjoy the Molle plate, and happy off-roading.